check your laptop or computer settings because those can be separate from the software.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's gotta be something on my computer because it says it's on.
Because my laptop, it has like a camera off function as well. Like I can disable it separately.
When you turn the camera on, it should tell you like allow or disable.
Hey, there's a YouTube link.
Hey, what's up, Sabrina?
Hey, Sabrina.
Oh, hello.
Star Press.
Hello.
Hey guys.
If you go to your control panel for Windows 10, there'll be a privacy section. Inside of there, you can go to your actual permissions for your webcam and make sure that Zoom is enabled.
Okay.
Thanks, Will.
My computer's just very slow. It's a very crappy computer.
Can everyone hear me?
You can just use your phone if anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you now.
Okay.
Sabrina, are you at the doctor's office?
I'm working. I work in a doctor's office.
Wow.
Please be safe.
Yeah, be careful.
They show me
Guys, yeah. Be safe out there.
we're telling people not to come in if they have like the symptoms and whatnot, and to go get tested right away because that's what makes sense. We only have like tests in our office, and if they come here, other patients who are coming for other issues could get affected. So it's just like, but we still have patients who come in. Like we just had one that was presented with like difficulty breathing, congestion, fever. So. But yeah, how's everybody's break going?
Boring.
It's okay. I feel like everyone's just being bombarded now with like lives and classes and meetings.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just trying to adjust.
I've never taken an online class, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
An online class in high school and it did not go well.
No.
It's like you really have to pace yourself, and I'm the worst at that. So I waited till like the last week of like when everything was due for the class, because everything was just due at the end of the class. So I had to do every single assignment in the last week.
Oh no. I took one my first semester here, but like he paced it for us. Like he was like, oh, this week this is due, that week this is due.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Maggie.
hey, what's up? I finally got this.
Hey.
How's it going, y'all?
Doing all right. Thanks for asking. I'm trying to figure out classes and everything.
Yeah.
Is anyone like, does anyone know how the freak like an online class will work for a lecture hall? Because I've got a class with like over 300 kids in it, and we're supposed to do
You
it.
might have to split it up.
Yeah, my geology professor just sent out a Blackboard announcement saying that she's going to not do online attendance, so she's just going to post the recordings with the lectures on Blackboard.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah, because it's a big class. It's like 250 kids, so.
That's smart. My professor wants to see everybody, which is like,
Oh, really?
We're like 300, bro. All right.
800.
No, I feel like for us bio majors, like they don't care.
Yeah.
Like we
Yurovsky, I mean, like,
fun.
yeah, but like Yurovsky's like, yeah, I'm doing WebEx, and I'm like,
oh yeah, we're doing WebEx too for a lot of my classes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So is the e-board on or what? What's the status?
I'm here. My camera's not working. It's just like.
Oh.
Doesn't want to work.
Oh, okay. Just asking because, like, I don't know. This is the first time I use Zoom.
If you look participants in like the middle of the screen, like you can see on the side whoever is present.
Gotcha. All right, let's get the show
Look,
on.
there's a raise hand option.
Yeah.
Funny. Okay,
Where's Ricky?
On for SGA Meeting.
I think he's setting up the live stream.
The live stream is already set up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm ready to start. It's just like I can't use my camera yet because like the Lenovo thing is still loading and I can't change the settings.
Yeah.
Let's still just get started, I think.
But wait, do we have quorum?
Yeah, I think we do.
Yeah.
We don't. Wait. Oh no, we do. Wait, 1, 2. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Hello.
What is going on? Wait, how do I turn on my camera?
Sarah, do roll call.
What?
In the bottom left corner says
bottom left
microphone in
corner.
the video.
I'm doing this on my phone. It wasn't working on my MacBook. On the bottom left, all it has is like mute. Oh, my bad. I see start video.
There you
Hey,
go.
what's up, man?
Yo.
Hola. How's everyone's Corona break going?
Corona break.
Alright.
LOL.
We're on live. Look at us.
Wow.
Couple more.
Yay.
You guys hear me? Yeah, I hear you. Hey guys, if you guys go on the top right, there's this, I don't know if it's on, I'm on the computer. So on the top right, there's this thing that you can put gallery view and you can see everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Okay. Yeah. So my camera is just like not gonna work right now. Maybe I'll try my phone next time. I'm ready to start. You guys are.
Yeah. Wait,
on,
is everyone
everyone.
here? Oh wow.
About. Okay. Najira, roll call.
Oh, Ricky says he's running upstairs.
Take a
Oh, Najira, I
screenshot.
can't hear you.
Just take a screenshot.
Facts. That's the point.
Yeah, no one can hear you, I don't think.
Yeah, Najira,
Someone's
we
got a
can't hear
beat
you.
going on.
Wait, am I the only one wearing pajamas here?
No, I have pajama pants
Wearing
on.
sweats.
Don't.
I'm wearing sweats too.
I mean,
Look,
I'm wearing a
everyone's wearing
full-on robe, but okay.
Ricky looks like a Twitch streamer.
W51. Amazon.
My professor's a Twitch
Who
streamer.
just said that about Ricky? Like,
Ricky looks like a DJ. Ricky.
Oh my God.
No, we can't hear you, Najira.
Nope, can't hear you, Najira.
No, Najira, I can't hear you. How about you just write everybody's name and then we say here, I guess.
I think
Yeah.
your mic
Does your
is-
laptop have a microphone built in?
Wait, Najira, are you,
You
on
have
your
to allow
MacBook?
the microphone to work.
Yeah, I
It
don't think
might
your
be muted.
laptop will like that microphone.
Ooh. Najira, are you on your MacBook? Like thumbs up or thumbs down? 'Cause I'm trying to troubleshoot. No, are you on your phone?
Can't hear you.
Still can't hear you. Like you have
We
to,
can't hear you. You gotta.
or use the
thumbs
chat
up.
option. Oh, here you go. Oh,
Like subtitles.
I'm
Yeah.
on my lap.
Maybe
Okay.
your mic is off in settings.
yeah.
I think you have to allow it. Yeah, the settings. You have to allow the camera and the microphone.
Yeah, put in built-in microphone and built-in output. If you have headphones in.
Man, I'm so sad it has to be like this, honestly.
Can't wait until we talk
Super.
about commencement.
Oh
I
yeah.
know. That's my
Yeah.
I know.
Sophia.
It's gonna be just like this.
Oh no!
Oh my God,
Don't say
imagine.
that.
Jeez.
I'm not.
With
Tassel.
people like this. Oh no, it's not working.
Technical difficulty.
I'm in a meeting. I'm in a meeting.
Okay, I'll just read it off, and like Nigeria, you can write it down. Would that work? I'll read off the names. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that.
Okay. Kainat.
Here.
Dylan. Here. Lauren.
Hi.
Carolus.
Here.
Yvette.
Here.
Mariah. Melanie.
Here.
Maggie.
Here.
Ricky.
Here.
Ema.
Here.
Sarah.
Here.
Carolyn.
Here.
Sabrina.
Here.
Karima.
Here.
Manar. Najira. I guess she's not here. Harrison.
Here.
Will.
Here.
Terrell. Anna.
Yeah.
Abbas.
Here.
Kevin.
Here.
Hamza. Akwe.
Here.
Tonanzit.
Here.
Okay, that's everybody.
All right.
Okay. First thing on the agenda. Oh, my computer is frozen. That's just great. Does someone have the agenda who can tell me what the first item is if my computer's frozen?
First
roll
Slack.
call, then Zoom, then Slack.
Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, those are just the links, to join the meeting. I'll continue putting like all the info there, like in the agendas, like as we go on.
Actually, so I have something to say about Slack. I don't know if y'all remember, but in the beginning when we had Slack created, we said that student orgs and e-boards would be able to join it. So I think this would be a good time for us to send it to student organizations so they can start addressing their concerns in any channel that they have, or reach out to senators or e-board members that they want, so they can address their issues there. Yeah.
So are we? Oh, do we have those channels made already? I think, right?
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
pretty
we
much
have the
made. Yeah, so they're pretty much made, and what happens is the invite link that we have, they're gonna all be added into the general chat. So the general chat, everyone's just gonna be there, and then we'll put them into the appropriate channels that they have. So we have set up some channels for student org leaders. We can have for now, maybe at least one rep from each org. But the goal is to have everyone there so that we have some type of centralized communication, because for a while now, we've been accustomed to having GroupMe as a form of communication between the president of orgs and the president of SGA, and we haven't had that past semester. So there has been some gap between student orgs and communication with SGA in terms of that. So this is our solution to regroup that, and also to have a more effective way to communicate with everyone.
And then also with the channels, like Ricky said, so whenever you press on that link, it'll take you to the general channel, which will have everyone there. But moving forward, I think one of the biggest issues that we're having right now is SOIS funding, right? So we can have another channel where we put, for example, like president and treasurer of each organization that has joined in that channel with the SOIS committee and board members. And moving forward, we can have every specific issue can have a channel. That way it's more organized, and not everyone has to hear about what's going on when they don't necessarily need to.
Okay, yeah, cool. Because right now it's just general, and there's a student involvement one. So as we go, just make channels as we need them.
Yeah.
Well, we also have other ones that we created that we just haven't made public yet. I'll read them out loud right now, and what the point of each channel is. So we have of course committees. Committees have their own channels. They're set into private for set reason. We are also going to have, this one. So this one, there will be a channel that's just going to be between the OSL team, like the advisors, and also student groups. They're all going to be in that channel, and that's where they would be able to, I guess, have that would be the opportunity for OSL to give alerts, like quick alerts, something that's not worth typing a whole email, just to send a quick alert to student organizations about some updates that they may have throughout the semester. And it's not just going to be for spring 2020, but it's going to be onwards, so so this is the type of communication we want to push moving forward to not just us, but everyone else.
Okay. Is there anything else about Slack or Zoom?
I guess I mean, we're probably going to talk about it more at the temporary resolution portion, but nothing right now.
Okay, yeah, that's next. So temporary resolution to maintain these meetings virtually.
Yeah, seconded.
No, we're not.
Oh, my
like,
bad.
did you so nothing was submitted to me yet, so I'm guessing you want to like draft it now. I mean, it's a pretty simple thing. It's just like a sentence or two. Like,
yeah, I mean, the point of having like some temporary resolution is just to put it on paper and hold each other accountable that this is not just going to be like, this won't be the only meeting where we're going to have a full Senate or almost a full Senate president, but also to make sure we consistently meet, what media we're going to use, what should we change. These are just questions. Should we change like what quorum is? I mean, it looks like we're not going to have any difficulty with quorum, so we may not have to change that definition temporarily. But just stuff to consider. How do we go forward with Robert's rules through a virtual sense? Like, does that change? These are questions that we should be asking ourselves, because we are going to be following, a regular Senate meeting for the rest of the semester. So. That's why I don't think much of the language has been drafted, is because we want to make sure everyone's included, and get some feedback. And also, like, I guess Zoom etiquette, like making sure everyone's on mute and having only one mic. That's also pretty important, because you don't want to get like feedback noises. And this is also being live streamed on YouTube, by the way. So you don't want people to hear like some feedback, background noise, or anything like that. So
on that note, did we post a link on our Instagram and Facebook for the live stream? Okay.
Yep. Okay. So does anyone have any questions, I guess, or does anyone want to add? Because we should draft this up and have this. I mean, it's not ready now, so maybe by next meeting, if we can get something done, just some quick ground rules of like what a Zoom call will look like, moving forward and stuff.
So since we're not gonna be on campus and no one's gonna be on campus really, like, how are we gonna be able to implement, like what we're gonna be planning so far, like for the next meetings?
I mean, there is still. Wait, what?
I missed the question. Can you repeat it, Carolyn?
Yeah, so like, since we're not going to be on campus anymore and no one's going to be on campus, I mean, like, what is the purpose of us meeting every week if we're not going to be able to like be present and like show everyone what we've been doing or working on?
So I think like right now, honestly, is probably one of the most important times for us to be present and to be meeting and to be figuring out what's going on, because a lot of students are facing a lot of difficulties going through this transition from being in school and being in class and then going to online, whether that be like mental health, or it could be food insecurity or housing insecurity, or just having the idea of not having commencement, right? Like a lot of students are like, we go through 4 years of college so that we can.
No, definitely 100%.
That's a fact.
Yeah. So all this stuff needs advocacy on our end of saying, okay, like these are the issues that students are experiencing and are facing. This is why, like, we're bringing up to administration. I think right now more than ever, we need to be like present and like making sure that we're doing as well. I know, like we already on the executive boards and we met with Dean Williams last week, virtual meeting, and we came up with a few ideas that executive board wants to implement, but also bringing in the Senate and how we can have, everybody still has their funds, right? We still have an executive board budget. Senators still have $1,000 that they can spend, and just looking at ways that we can transition that into helping students and what they're experiencing now.
Yeah, no, definitely understand. I mean, me and Zara just had a meeting with Dean Pinto about like what we're going to be doing for the rest of the semester and like just addressing student concerns. But my question is, like, since we're not going to be able to be on campus, how will we be able to like reach students if like I know a lot of people will not be able to access, let's say, like these videos or like know what's going on really.
So we can also do, and this is also something that we discussed, we still have access to send out student-wide emails with initiatives that we come up with. If we decide like, oh, this is something that we want to do, we can send out emails to the entire student body and say, well, I think also it would be important to send out just emails letting people know that we're still having meetings and they could still tune into them on whatnot. But just keeping the student body updated, because I know, and I don't know if you guys saw, but on Instagram there were a few people who posted like, oh, like our student leaders don't care about us, like and like said things like that. Obviously it's not the case, but also if we're just kind of having these meetings within each other, then how are students going to know that we actually are doing something? Because I mean, it makes sense, right? Their money is going towards us. We're supposed to be helping the students, and make it apparent like what we're doing in order to help students. So I think that we should definitely continue doing the work, as I'm sure like you agreed, obviously, but also I think visibility is super important during a time like this as well. So students can have a feeling or a sense of knowing that the SGA isn't just sitting back and just, taking their vacation while we're cool, so we're actually still doing stuff.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, so we do need to implement some rules and making sure that we show up every Monday for our students, because as Sabrina said, they need us, and we as to be leaders and to be speaking with the powers to be that we have, the privilege to be working with. So, oh, nice. Okay, we have unlimited minutes now, so I have no idea.
Dylan? Oh, it wasn't Dylan. Oh, well, that's nice. It said it was updated by the host, but I was like, wait, okay.
I don't know, but my camera works now.
Oh, hello.
I don't know what happened, but divine it's like not. But yeah, so yeah, we definitely is anyone interested in I guess I'll spearhead the language on it. So does anyone want to help out creating that language? I see Sarah's raising her hand. All right. Oh, perfect. Harrison has a document made already. So I guess we're just gonna actually, what's the status on it, Harrison?
So right now, like I left the link, so anyone who clicks the link can edit it. I'm working on it right now. So yeah.
So it's not ready yet, right? By any chance? Okay, that's fine. Okay, perfect. So then I guess Harrison, do you mind dropping is it not ready to share yet, or what was it?
Oh no, I mean like I just thought it could be like a working document and then we can like put our ideas or stuff on that, and then by next meeting we can have it like formalized.
Okay, sounds good.
Or maybe by the end of this meeting if y'all really want to bang it out.
I don't know. Somebody jump in.
We need to get through the other items. So
yeah, okay. So then
as long as it's good by next week, just submit it to me and then I'll send it out.
All right, then I guess we'll just do that. We'll just want to make sure there's no holes.
Anyone else is gonna be working on it? I know you raise your hand, but any other? Hema, Lauren, is that a hand up? No?
I think it's up. I don't know if you.
Sorry.
Okay, maybe not. I'm all right. Maybe
we have to use the.
How do you do that? How do you send a thumbs up?
If you're on the laptop, there's a button on the right that says reactions. I don't know if it's on the iPhone. There you go.
Oh, it's right here. Yeah, I see it. Oh.
Okay, so can we move on to the next item?
Dylan.
Yeah, sorry, I was just unmuting. So I guess it's only clapping or a thumbs up. Okay. Yeah, the next thing is just the SOS situation. Obviously we cannot tier orgs. Like we can't do it. It's just not fair to anyone. Doesn't make sense. So we need to give orgs the same tiers they have, but we need to also discuss how we're going to handle the provisional orgs because they can't reach the criteria that OSLL gave them to become recognized. How are we going to fund them? Also, the remaining funds in all the organization accounts now. How are we going to handle that?
So sorry, real quick about the provisional orgs, can't we give them, if we're going to continue with tiering the same way that we tiered this year, can we give them provisional status for next semester as well? Because I mean, they weren't able to showcase what their org brought.
I don't know if the Office of Student Life is going to they might just recognize all of them. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know like what they're doing. I mean, it's up to them who they recognize, and then we have to go from there. So
do you want to speak a bit about that, Ricky?
Yeah. So having some discussions in regards to SYS. From what I'm hearing is that I think OSL might just recognize all orgs, but we'll get a more clarification on more confirmation of that answer. So if that is the case, what was suggested is to just automatically give them tier 4, which is the lowest tier that they can get, and by the way, it looks like it's a really decent amount of money, and they'll also have access to allocations funds, which since they haven't been used, kind of, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it's been used at all this semester. So all that's going to be good.
But I have
enough for grabs for clubs next semester.
But why are we giving them a tier if they weren't able to yet meet those requirements? I feel like it would be better if we continued that provisional status into next semester to see if they can, into next year, I guess, to see if they're able to fulfill the requirements for a provisional org to be recognized. Because there are some who maybe didn't do anything but are just going to get org status. And I don't think that would be the best idea.
So I guess it's not up to us. It's the office making that decision. And based on their decision, we have to fund them somehow.
And I think, like, I personally I don't think that would be a smart idea, because then you're giving someone like already org status without having fulfilled any type of requirements or showing that they are an org that is like needed on campus.
I agree with Sabrina. Could we ask the office, or like, could we come to a consensus here and like let the office know that's what we think? Because I think she's right.
I mean, this is all like, just, I guess, like, I don't know how to say it, but like, this is all assumptions, I guess. We don't know for sure what activity that orgs did, but at the same time, we also can't, for orgs that have already existed for a while, like, we're not going to count their events. From what it looks like, we're not going to count their events this year that they did so far in spring 2020. But we are gonna. Are we gonna look at provisional orgs now? This is all Office Student Life. They're not gonna make a decision to just approve anyone just cause. Like, if they're gonna approve some and then not others, that's on them. This is something that's like kind of out of our bounds. But we could tell them like our concerns for sure, and it could be definitely brought up to them. But in terms of deciding, like, funding, if they're all recognized, there's no set provision on how to there's no set provision on how to fund orgs that are newly recognized. We would have to, which is why we would have to give them tier 4, because that's the lowest tier an org can get with funding.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. But I'm just saying, in general, with like the SYS committee, obviously keep doing what you're doing and see if, like, I think a meeting with the Office of Student Life regarding all of that is definitely necessary during a time like this, because it's obviously unprecedented. Like, there's nothing in the Constitution that says, oh, if your school gets shut down and nobody's able to hold events, what to do. So I think from this, like, if the SYS committee is able to have a meeting with like Dean Williams or Dean Pandit or whoever it might be, I think it would be helpful.
Okay. This, by the way, the suggestion of giving tier 4 status was brought up by Office of Student Life. It was an idea from them. So I thought that was a fair idea. But we could definitely talk as a committee and then bring it back again as to the SGA at a later time.
the way I did it when I tiered provisional orgs for this semester was that I included them as kind of a tier 5. I don't know if you guys remember when I pulled up the budget in the beginning of the semester, but I put them all as tier 5 and then they got 200 each. So, I mean, technically they are provisional, but I kind of just created a 5th tier for them.
Yeah, and I feel like that makes sense moving forward into next semester because, like we were all saying, like they haven't been able to really showcase like what their org brings to campus. So I think it would make sense for them to stay in that like tier 5 provisional status for next semester, and that can be their step towards like spring semesters when they actually get tiered. Because I know before we closed down the process and then reopened it, that was the process. Like in the fall, we had a provisional orgs who applied. In the spring, we also had another application. So I think that could be useful.
Yeah, we can.
Will we have provisional orgs in the fall semester? Like ones that apply in the fall and get approved?
I think we should go back to the other thing. Would be a discussion with offices of life, but I think closing it for the fall semester just because we're also getting there are orgs who like are going to have presidents that are transitioning without an official transition process because there's going to be seniors who are graduating, and I think it's just going to be a little like, not to be negative, but a little chaotic for a little bit of the fall semester because you don't really have that transition process. You don't have like a formal handing it over and whatnot. So I think it should be closed for the beginning of the fall, and then the spring semester we could do another application cycle.
Yeah, no, I do agree with what you said because also, would it be possible, let's say if they do become provisional, like the current provisional orgs right now, if they are still provisional orgs in the fall, could their money be rolled over from the spring to the fall? That way they kind of have double the amount. Because I feel like if they still will be provisional orgs, it would be fair for them to keep the money that they had and get extra 400 or whatever, however, or the $250 that they also might get in the fall and just have more events.
So that was a discussion that we were having in our meeting as well. And I think, honestly, I think it should roll back into SGA the same way that it's been in the past, from summer to fall, rolling back into the SGA account, because that way everybody's still going to be getting more money. So if you're in the tier 5 account, you can still get more money because all of the money that was used over is getting like rolled back. And the reason that I said that is because I think there are organizations who have had a very heavy like beginning of the semester, and I feel like if we don't roll over that money, they're kind of getting penalized in a sense, because it's like, okay, you had like good events and whatnot, and those organizations that didn't have events and have more events towards the end of the semester are going to have more money coming into the fall. So do you get what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it causes some sort of like inequity there, because now I'm like, I used my money in the beginning of the fall, in the beginning of the spring semester, and now I have less than every other org because they were using it towards the end.
But would it be possible to like send out a form to like student organizations and like ask them like, how many events they had so far, and if they were planning on having any more events for the semester? And that way we can tier them based on that, because I don't think it's fair for students who are like really active to get like tier 4 for next semester.
Retweet.
Well, it's the same over. So if you were really active, like before, you're still getting a higher tier. My only thing is that those organizations that were, for example, tier 1 and used like the majority of their budget during the beginning of the semester are now going to be having less. And those organizations that were maybe tier 4 who didn't use any of their money and have the entire amount rolling over now have the tier that they received last time and the entire budget that's rolling over. So a tier 1 org might have the same amount of money as a tier 4 org just because they used all their money last semester. Do you get what I'm saying?
Not necessarily rolling over the amount of money, but like just giving them like a new tier. Like instead of giving all the new orgs tier 4, we can ask them like, how many events have you had so far, and like what events were you planning on having, and then tier them based on that.
So, I mean, we talked about that in our meetings with OSLL, at least the SOIS committee, and like we were kind of unable to come to a consensus about how that would be done and an equitable way for that to be done, because it's not just about like the events that you're doing, it's also participation at OSLL events, it's engagement, it's the trainings that we added. And we, like, given that half of the semester is now all online, there isn't really an equitable way for us to tier organizations for this semester, since It's
I know
completely
that's
different.
what- I mean, like just giving everyone tier 4 isn't equitable
No,
either.
I don't believe that was the plan.
I have a thing. I have an idea. Why don't we come up with some kind of like application survey to see where they think they should be and why, and then we find some kind of happy medium as to where they want to be and where we can put them based on what they want to do, what they've done in the past, and I don't know, something else in there.
Yeah, I mean, because like we're gonna already have a lot of funds available, so like
I don't mind volunteering reviewing those applications.
I just feel like a lot of organizations then can be like, okay, like let's put all these events that we
yeah, that's true.
Because you don't have an idea of what their events were going in, so now they could just fluff talk it and create more events going.
Yeah, that's true.
I genuinely think that like obviously there is, and I agree with you 100%, Harrison, that there is no like equitable way at this point because it's difficult. These situations don't just like happen, and we just have to kind of figure out the most equitable way. So I think that like personally, I think that rolling over the money in the SGA account is going to like allow everybody to have additional funds, and it's going to be distributed based on previous tiers, which obviously that goes back to the fall semester, but I think that would be the best way. And going back to Carolyn, what you were saying about like everybody getting tier 4, it's only the provisional orgs. So orgs that have been like already established and have already like held events in the past and everything like that. And I feel like that would be the most fair way because at the end of the day, like every single org that came onto our campus had to abide by those guidelines and had to, like come like reach all of the goals that the Office of Student Life had like set for them and whatnot. And if we're giving them like org status without them having to go through that process, I just think it's unfair to other orgs who had to go through the process.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify something because there's two separate things that are kind of getting maybe mixed here, right? So we have the 8 new organizations, which are provisional, just those 8. So now it's up to OSLL to say, okay, all right, recognize not another provisional semester, whatever, that's on them. And then we figure out from there what they get, right? In the most equitable way we can. And then the other thing is just all the money in every organization's account, not just provisional. So like both. So I just want to clarify that. And then like a point, like if we do surveys and stuff, I think like it has the intention of being more equitable, but it could be more subjective and lead toward more of like what Rutgers New Brunswick does with funding. And it's just like orgs writing in packets what they want to do, and then the office gives them money. They make a decision. So it might be coming too close to that, I think.
Is that bad?
Well, I think it becomes even more inequitable because it's just very subjective and then bureaucratic.
It also kind of takes away our the whole point that we kind of exist. The majority of our existence comes through SOIS. So implementing something like an application-based or survey-based type of thing could set precedent for something that we might not necessarily want for the future. So we also have to be wary about that.
And will org still have the opportunity to appeal next semester? Because I mean, regardless of what tier they receive, can't they still appeal after?
No. So appealing how it has worked the last 2 semesters. Like in the years past, orgs could just say, hey, we think we deserve tier 1. Well, like the last 2 semesters, it hasn't been like that. It had to be like some kind of margin of error criteria. And we've put that in the budget. So if we're giving everyone the same tiers again, I wouldn't see like a need for everyone to appeal. It would just because everybody would just be getting the same amount they had. I don't know.
Including
no basis for appeal anymore if we just give them the same tier because there's no like point recalculation to do.
Can I say something? I think we should consider whether they went to allocations or not. What do you guys think? Do you think that's like a good way to measure if because if we're giving them the same money every year or something and they're always going to allocations, like that obviously means they're having like hella events. They're having events and do you get what I'm saying?
Semester,
I mean, not necessarily. I mean, some people might just want more money so they can have more events. If historically they're always in a certain tier, then that kind of means that that's just how they are every semester. I think generally that's how it's been working.
Can we have
everybody
Kainat
always
answer
wants
that?
more money?
Can we have Kainat answer that? Kaina, can you answer for us?
Yeah, I was just saying, this semester we've only had one org come to allocations. And my whole board talked about this. Like, we had, how long were we in school? 7 weeks? We only had one meeting because only one org came. And the rest of the meetings I canceled the night before because no one was coming, and there, like, obviously there was no point in having a meeting then. And that meeting happened on February 5th. So that was it. We haven't had anyone come to allocations aside from that. And then we had 2 orgs that were supposed to come that week that school got closed down. So I just told them, well, obviously if campus is closed, you won't have events, so we can't really allocate funds to anyway.
Okay.
The other thing that I want to like mention, sorry Ricky for cutting you off, is that like if we do an application, like that's sort of us taking on the role of OSLL in like determining like how orgs are doing, and that's, you know, the point of SOIS is not to replace OSLL because OSLL determines if organizations are in good standing or not. SOIS is just to incentivize student organizations to participate in aspects of student life that the SGA thinks are important. And that does extend a bit beyond events. Like, you know, for example, one of the things that we included last semester was all our activities for Prison Reform Week. So I don't want to just base it off the metric of how much money they're asking for, especially since we now know that there was only one organization that appealed. If you guys have like any further questions, like, you know, we like definitely address it to the SOIS committee, and we'll definitely take all this into account when we're trying to figure out how we're setting up the tiering sheet for fall semester now.
So the first item, right, the new orgs, provisionals, that's kind of, we're going to leave it up to OSLL, wait it out and see what they say, right? It is dependent on them. So what about the other thing with the remaining funds? So that this org has, say, $1,000 left. This one has $20 left. Are we putting in allocations, something else, or rolling over to themselves? What are we doing?
Real quick.
So that we would like to determine. Sorry, let me just bring this point real quick because I've been trying to say that forever. But I guess a really good point to determine how do we decide this. We have to look at the numbers, and we have to look at how the exact numbers that are presented, like how many. Like looking at the orgs and seeing how much remaining funds do they have, and then we base off our decisions from there. I think it's too premature to make a decision like right now to see what what to do with the remaining funds. We just need to see what are those remaining funds.
Well, why are we even considering rolling their remaining funds to them next semester if we're gonna give them the same exact tier and have them give them completely new funds?
It's an option that's on the table from.
Yeah, but like, what is the purpose of it? I'm confused because if we do it as normal, like where we give all their funds to allocations, like have student accounting send all the new money to them from all the new student fees, why can't we just do it the way we normally do it?
That's also another thing too. Before I answer that question, because student fees is going to be a topic that might be brought up later when we talk about refunds, because that's definitely something that students have brought up, and if they do get this is an assumption, if they do get a partial or prorated refund in student fees, the numbers might change. So that's why I'm saying like we should definitely wait this out and see for like what exactly is the money that we're working with. And the only reason why I think it's too premature, and why I'm having the rollover option open to the table is because there's a lot of options that we can work with. We can roll it back to student org monies because some orgs haven't used their money, and that's kind of going to waste it in a sense. Another option that can be used for unused student org funds can be perhaps we can use some of that to fund this next topic that we have in regards to having some type of mutual aid for students and for the care team. Like that's, like I said, I don't know the exact numbers of what unused funds are, but that could be something pretty big to tap on, and perhaps something that we can use and probably really helpful for to collaborate with the care team. So that's what I wanted to say. All options are on the table, and the only way that we'll know for a fact is if we also include. I think Carolyn mentioned earlier having a like some type of straw poll of what do student org leaders feel that we should use their unused funds for. I mean, obviously, it might be a little biased towards them, and they probably would want the money, but we still want to hear them out and see what they think in terms of unused funds, because until as of right now, it's still in their accounts.
Yeah.
So,
And,
it's
like,
not like we can just overreach and take it all away from them, but or I guess we can, but
And I just want to add on to the point that Ricky was talking about. Like, this is, I don't know about rolling it over every semester. Like we've talked about every semester, you know, this is the process that we're doing, but we are not in a situation where this happens every semester. So this is extremely unique. And I know a lot of organizations have not had events, and they have not used their funds. And maybe they want to start getting merchandise, or they want to start getting things that they usually cannot get because they haven't spent that much money and they have that money left. But I do think if we reach out to them and tell them that I think it's a really good idea to have that money put into the fund, because we are giving back to the students and we are using the student fee money to actually help the students directly, and to help them in a time where it's unprecedented and they have lost their jobs, their housing, and so much more. And I think that would be a really good idea. And I lost my train of thought. But
So
yeah,
I just wanna, I know a lot of universities are already doing like the relief fund, like for students who are impacted by COVID-19. So if we're not going to be rolling them over to like orgs next semester, we can definitely use the additional money that like student orgs have this semester to use it for that relief fund and like give back to students who are in need. Because like I know a lot of people don't have internet access, and especially like right now, you need that for like virtual classes and virtual meetings.
I don't know
So
if we can touch that money though, constitutionally. Like it's that money goes to allocations, and like us as SGA as a body and executive board, we cannot pull money from the allocations, that fund. However much money, we cannot take money out of that for events. I don't know if we constitutionally
Can we
can.
have like a resolution?
We
No, so I was.
so
I
that's what
I emailed Dean Williams on Tuesday, and I was trying to set up something. I'm waiting for a response, but I was trying to set up something similar to the SGA Emergency Fund, where the allocations board votes on using like a percentage of our funds to help out with all of this, because there's a lot of money left in allocations, and like I said, we've only given one allocation this semester, and we have so much money left over. We didn't even hit. I set 40% aside last semester. We didn't even use all of that. So I'm waiting on Dean Williams to get back to me on how that works, because I know allocations funds are different from SGA funds. But if she gives me the okay, then I'll ask the entire board, they'll vote on it, and we have all that money available too. So the problem with not rolling over student org money the way we normally do is that if we do use allocations funds to help out with this situation, then the next chief of finance won't have any money left in allocations if we also use remaining student org money, because then nothing's rolled over.
I mean, another option is to use like our Senate money that like we haven't used.
But I was saying if this idea gets approved and we use allocations board funds, then we should stick to rolling student organization leftover money to allocations for next year, because they need something to operate next year. They won't have anything to use all that money now.
Beth just asked how much money we have now.
So, 1 second, let me pull it up.
I have 2 points to say kind of in the meantime. So like Ricky said, I think right now we should just put ideas out there and examine everything that we are talking about and look at the numbers actually. And like I said, we want to make sure that the next CFO has money that they can work with. But also Dylan brought up a point about the Constitution. So I think this would be a good time to discuss like contingency plans now that this has happened. And I for one never expected this to happen. So maybe we should have something in the Constitution that says in the time of emergency, this is what we can do, and write up an amendment and hopefully get it presented and passed so we can move forward with it, because I don't think it's appropriate for us to violate the Constitution, but also we have to have something in place where we can move forward and not be stuck in a situation where we don't know what we're doing.
Speaking of Constitution, I know we're going a little off topic here, but it also still needs to get updated. Just putting it out there.
Yeah, so with that too, that kind of all got moved and pushed, and for the Constitution itself, there needs to be like some kind of separate committee It can't involve like any current people running for SGA, so that's why it's been kind of pushed. But it's just a matter of like, I don't know, finding and verifying the stuff that has been passed. I think there might be like 2 or 3 amendments, and then editing them in, but then making sure that it was done correctly and ethically. Okay, so yeah, I think it's good. We're putting all the like options on the table, like rolling back allocations, giving to orgs, care team. We're kind of like jumping ahead on some things. So I'm just gonna move forward for the sake of time. Our next thing is just like broadly the different refunds. So the housing refund is gonna happen. That's for sure. There's gonna be some kind of prorated refund based on like what date you left the dorm. So that's gonna happen. But like we should follow up on dining refunds, the computer fee refunds, campus fees. That tuition won't work because they're still paying professors. So but we can try to follow up on the other fees. Any thoughts?
I agree.
Agree.
So I'm also on a committee right now. So I'm in a group me chat with like presidents from all the New Jersey schools, like SGAs. So we had a phone meeting, and then we're having basically like different committees with subcommittees within the I guess task force or whatever. So one of the task force that I signed up for was on refunds. So looking at what other universities are doing. I know TCNJ is probably like the one that's doing the most with refunds from what I've seen. They're actually doing, like, they already started with the housing, they're doing dining, they're doing partial student fees. They haven't figured out exactly how, because it's not like laid out. It's just this one big student fee, right? Like it's just one big lump sum. It's not split into like, this is for computer labs, this is split for this and that. But they did say that they're going to be doing some sort of refund for like resources that are provided on campus that they're no longer able to access. So that's obviously something that I think we should be aiming for within Rutgers. So like Dylan said, the housing one is already kind of in the works. The other ones we need to follow up. So with dining, with student fees, to see like, since we aren't using these campus resources, how can we get kind of reimbursed for it? And we also brought it up to Dean Williams, and it's on her radar as well. We don't know exactly how it's going to work, and she hasn't yet been able to get us a response. Or I don't know, I think Dean Williams, you're on here, so I don't know if you hear me and are able to give us like an update on kind of what's been going on with it. But
sure.
You are here.
I was trying not to be too invasive, respecting you all's space. So refunds, it's actually in the works. I was on several phone calls over the weekend, actually, to discuss how to process the refunds. And keeping in mind, this is not just Rutgers Newark, this is university-wide. And it's happening on a really broad scale. So there's definitely a plan to refund student money in general, not only for housing and dining, but for other fees as well. So it's just a matter of time. So at this point, what the administration is asking for is just a little bit of patience with making sure it can actually be processed properly. But again, this will be handled. It's just a matter of, this is unprecedented. So this has never happened before. So I think it's just a matter of wanting to make sure that it's done in an organized fashion and that it's accurate and giving students what they're owed.
Could there also be like a refund for parking? Because I know like students
gonna say that, yeah.
Yeah, $600, and they were only on campus for like what, a month and a half, not even. Yeah. Would they be able to like get a refund for like the remaining of the semester?
Parking permit.
So I do know parking is included in the list of refunds for students.
Okay, good. Has there been a conversation around like what that refund is going to look like? Because like I was saying, like with the TCNJ, the way that they're doing it is not necessarily like you're going to get like a refund check. So basically the way it works is whatever remaining balance, whatever balance it is or that you're getting refunded is just going to transfer over to next semester. You're paying off. Whereas like people who are graduating, that's where you would receive like a refund check.
Okay. Because like I know like for bus passes, they were refunding them for like the remainder of like the month. Or like for April, like since they haven't used it yet, they were refunding them for the whole amount. So
what about parking passes?
Yeah,
that's what we're trying to figure out.
So like, I feel like there should be like a similar approach for parking passes as well, because it wouldn't be fair for students who pay $600 or they're not parking for the remainder of the semester.
Agreed.
I believe all fees are prorated, which means that you're only going to have, it won't be, I don't imagine, and again, please don't quote me on this, but I don't imagine, just like with housing, it's not for the entire duration of the semester, but rather for the amount of hues that actually apply for the semester. So if you were in, for instance, housing from January to February, then you would still be charged that housing. So anything that would be moving forward. So let's say you officially moved out, March 1st, then you would be prorated the refund based on the date that you actually moved out. So I know that the question is, how do you calculate those fees, but based on proration? Because some students did utilize meal plans and did utilize parking. So just make sure that that's, calculated accurately.
So one more question in regards to that. You said like if you were no longer utilizing it like on March 1st or whatever it is, that's what you're going to be refunded. But for example, like students who are told like you have to move out at this date, but like for example, me, like my stuff is all still at the dorms. I'm not allowed to like pick it up, but I'm not allowed to utilize the dorms either. So is the prorated, I can't even say the word, cost, is that going to be from the time that I was told I need to move out? Or
really good question. I don't have the answer to that, but I do know that the intent is to maximize the amount that students are getting back. So I don't imagine it would be a conservative, if there was a decision, I know that the intent is to try to get as much back for the student as possible. So while I don't have an exact answer, I believe that housing is working on that in connection with Amber and the CFOs across the university.
I would imagine that they're using the survey they sent out. So, for example, like I moved out by like the limit time, right? And they sent out a survey. Fill this out if you have like a circumstance where you need to stay. So if you didn't fill it out, then they know the day that they had to leave by. So I'm guessing that's what they'll base it on.
Yeah. And then I guess that's smart because I was also thinking about my stuff in school, the fact that I'm home and I'm not using the resources in housing right now. I was wondering, so it doesn't mean that I have to go get my stuff and give them the key, and that's when they start counting that, oh, you moved out, or is it the limited time that they told us to go home? Is that where the counting starts from? So that's a good clarification.
Was there anything else on that point on refunds that anybody had?
I guess they're just all in the works. They're definitely happening to some extent, specifically housing. Okay.
Is there
the next thing.
Sorry, before we move on really quickly.
Yeah, sure.
Like asking Dean Williams, is there anything that we as an SGA can put out to students, like talking about this? Because I know that a lot of students are really worried about it. I've even seen like pages that are like, unscrew RU, talking about like advocating for those refunds. Like I know that, we're not supposed to put any official message out, but is there any language that we can use to sort of reassure students that, yes, the refunds are coming, they're just in the works?
So that's
Besides
actually
housing.
That's actually a great question. I did inquire on the last meeting that I had with the campus-wide, again, Rutgers University, not just Newark, but the entire university system, on what the time frame looks like. So maybe that can be communicated to assuage some of those, feelings around, am I going to get my refund? When am I going to get my refund? A lot of the questions that we've been bombarded with recently. And so I don't have that. They don't have that answer in terms of the timeline. But I do think where SGA can kind of help build a bridge between administration and students is to keep open the lines of communication, keep this on the agenda moving forward, let students know that it's continuing to be on the agenda, and that you all are working in conjunction with the administration to make sure that as soon as we have that information, we'll be communicating it to students. But I do think, I know it's really hard. I totally understand why students feel this way. But I do think because this is unprecedented, it is going to take time. So I think it is just reiterating, please be patient. we're working on it.
Yeah, I
So-
agree with that. And especially like because now that classes are starting and there's a lot of concerns with the students about keeping up with their course loads because some professors are giving more homework, others are like changing the way that their system is working. And I think it's really important for us to come in and reassure the students that they will get whatever help that they need once everything is figured out, because like Dean Williams said, this is all new for all of us. We have never experienced this, and this was not something that any of us thought of, and neither are the students. And that's kind of where their anxiety is coming from. And I think reassuring them that we will get to all the students and hopefully hear their concerns from the SGA standpoint and address those concerns, and that we are fighting for them is going to be super essential, because like we've seen, just reassuring, like making everyone feel calm and heard, I think is where we have to come in, and addressing those concerns calmly to the administration so they can address it after everything's settled is where we come.
I just want to know, like, are we allowed to say that there will be refunds for housing, parking, as well as like services on campus and dining? And like, just like they don't know the timeline yet. Is that something that we're allowed to put out?
I'm sorry to bump, come in, but I feel like instead of us being so specific about like what refunds they're gonna get, we should just be like, there will be refunds, like possible, like we'll have refunds. If we're so specific about what refunds they're gonna get, then it's like we're making their hopes higher, like by saying that
Well,
you'll get
yeah.
refunds for
So
this or
so that's
that.
why
So
I
if
don't
we just
want
keep it at
misleading.
refunds, and then we can just like talk about it as if they further on have a question, we can always answer it. But let's not try to make false promises, especially during a
No,
time like this.
no, definitely. And that's why I'm asking Dean Williams, like, is it like set in stone? Like, are there going to be refunds given out for dining, housing, and all the other services that students use on campus, or is that still like being determined which services in particular?
So I do know that in the Barchi message that housing was the one that was mentioned most explicitly. So I think it's safe to, again, say that for sure. I think to be on the safe side, I agree, it's better to be general at this point, because we don't yet have exact details on the refunds and what that's going to look like. And it's also, just keep in mind, different based on the school, the academic school students in. It's different based on whether you're part-time or full-time. There's a number of factors that go into kind of some of the specifics. And so I just, I think it'd be best to just keep it general. I did want to say one more thing, kind of not going too far back, but to the emergency fund question around how to support students. I think it's great that SGA is actually taking a lead in providing additional support. You all are doing something that's actually really remarkable. So congratulations and thank you. I just also wanted to make sure that you all are aware that there are other contingency plans put in place for students who are facing hardship due to COVID-19. And I would just advise, as you're kind of meeting and speaking with your peers, if they're bringing this up, they can email the Office of Financial Aid, who has an appeal form that students can actually submit. This is something that was in place previous to COVID-19. But then there's also the care team. If a student is having multiple issues or concerns, then they can always reach out there, and we can work with those students to try to address some of the imminent needs, whether it's technology or access to Wi-Fi, housing insecurity, food insecurity. So just wanting to make sure that you all know that there are things happening in the university on the back end.
I have a question in regards to the process of the team. So, sorry, Carolyn.
That's okay. But I think we have the same question about the care team.
Well, my question is, someone just texted me this question, and they are wondering how the care team will decide on which student of money. I don't know if this is something that is set up yet, because, like, again, we do need time to figure this out. But I don't know what kind of answer you would respond to that.
Or like how is the care team set up? Like, I know for like a lot of universities, they're doing like an application where you fill it out, and then like based on your needs, you'd get by like, I don't know, $200, $300 based on like the funds that you're allocating for this like relief fund. how is it being handled exactly for the care team?
I kind of missed part of Sarah's question.
I'll repeat it. So how would the care team decide on which student is going to get how much money, or is there a set amount that all or any student is going to get, or is it on a case-by-case basis?
So to answer both your questions, Sarah and Caroline, it is on a case-by-case basis. Each student is unique. Each student is individual and has different needs. And so that's why our process, compared to maybe some of our peer institutions and even within the record system, is a little more complex, simply because we do have one-on-one conversations with each individual student, which is at this point hundreds of students. To determine what their needs are. And so there's no magic formula or like calculation to figure out what the needs are. It really is based on the individual person. So there are several members of the care team that are reflective of not just my office and the dean of students, but also housing. We have counseling center, we have academic services, community standards, financial aid. So it's a collective process that tries to think about the holistic student, because it's not just about the money, it is about support and resources as a whole. So we try to be intentional about, making sure that students, all of your needs are being met.
So this takes us into one of our last points. Just because we only have 9 minutes remaining, I want to jump into it because it's very relevant to what we're talking about. The executive board is committing $25,000 from our budget to setting up this kind of fund with the care team and the pantry. And then we have to be in communication and discuss like that process, how we're going to go about it.
So we're actually discussing upping the amount because we did get $20,000 that also the second wave of money basically
that just came in.
Yeah, and the second wave of our student fees. So we're looking at possibly doing 50,000, and I ran it by Kainat, and Kainat said that it works within our budget. And I think this is like a super important thing, especially because being that we're not on campus, like how are we gonna really like reach the student population? And I think this is like one of the best ways to do it. So we're partnering with, and I know Dean Williams mentioned it a little bit, but the care team, the Office of Financial Aid, and like Dean Williams said, the process is like all determined by them, and they're the ones who are working with students. They know what the students need. So the scholarships are going to be between $500 and $1,000 per student, based on what the care team or the Office of Financial Aid decide is needed by the student. So hopefully with like $50,000, we're able to reach as many students as we can. And yeah, that's basically it for the emergency fund. Does anybody have like questions about this is all executive board funds. So this doesn't discount like the fact that you guys as senators can also contribute to having more money in the emergency fund.
Yeah, so would we be able to use our Senate funds?
Yeah.
Donate?
$50,000 is coming straight out of our funds.
Okay.
We'll have also other money that we want to use towards working with Ellen in the food pantry. We're looking at other ways that we can use that money that we have in the executive board budget. But if you are interested in adding to that amount, you guys can definitely do that.
Okay, and would it like go to like the whole student body, or can we like use our Senate money to just for like SASN students?
Scholarship that's offered, and Dean Williams, you can chip in or correct me if I'm wrong, but any scholarship that we offer has to be open to the entire student body.
Okay.
I do have a question. Are there any restrictions whatsoever, or is it?
Oh yeah, so that was the other thing I forgot to mention that you did. Thank you for asking that. We did say good academic standing, so you don't have to necessarily have a good GPA. No, so I know you gave that face. I kind of was also along the same lines, but good academic standing as in you're not going to be like kicked out of school next semester. Like if you're, that's just what we mean good academic standing. We're not going to have to have a certain GPA or like anything like that, because we understand that there are people who are struggling to get through school, might not have as high of a GPA, but still are facing like different struggles within like being being able to pay off food or housing or whatever it might be.
Yeah, no, that was my concern, because I did see that that one of the restrictions was not having good academic standing, but I just wanted to make sure to define that, because being not in good academic standing also means being on probation, and so in academic probation. So, do you know if that's also like are those students going to be not included in this fund?
Yes, they're not included.
Yeah,
Okay,
no, I
and
think that's very problematic.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you just said that there are students, we don't know their circumstances, we don't know why they got into academic probation to begin with, and we're not and limiting those funds that perhaps could get them up, or perhaps this semester was their semester to that they were going to get out of it, and because of these circumstances, all of a sudden everything just rained down. So I
That's
think
getting in
that fund needs to be addressed.
off like next semester. So it is circumstantial. Everything is going to go through financial aid and the care team, and they have more of an understanding of the student as a whole, right? They're going to be able to know, like, is the student not going to any longer be able to continue this semester or whatever it might be, or is the student like in not as good academic standing but also needs these funds.
And
So-
how did that determination came from? Like, where did that restriction came from then? Is it from the care team, or is it from a directive from the e-board?
No, it's from financial aid and the care team, I believe. Dean Williams, do you want to chip in?
Talk to us.
So I think the way we're thinking about, to your point, Sabrina, academic standing is wanting to ensure, because I think the concern is that, are you awarding funds to a student who may not be here next semester because of their academic performance? So as you know, every semester there are students who are either suspended academically or dismissed academically. So the question is, do you all feel comfortable granting funds to a student who may not be eligible to return? And we know that whether or not a student may or may not be eligible based on the academic school, because we do, again, the care team does have the academic school as a part of that. But if you all feel that it doesn't make a difference, that's certainly your discretion. But I just need to, know what the specs are to, make sure that we're applying those criteria for SGA funds.
So
Yeah,
I just want to pass that.
I just want to say that I think that there's as of right now, if they're a current student, we should definitely help them out regardless. This is extraordinary circumstance, and even if they don't like come back because of their academic performance, that shouldn't hinder them from getting access to funds that they need right now if they so request.
Yeah, and I think those funds are going to be made available for them, like for it to help them out during this like situation that they're going through right now due to COVID-19. So, I mean, like whether or not they're returning next semester, like hopefully this whole pandemic is going to be like done by then. But like we want those funds to help them out right now.
I just want to clarify. Oh, sorry. I just want to clarify, like you said that academic standing was not based on GPA, but at least for SASN students, it's you're on academic probation based on like several requirements. Where if you go to like the specific schools, like it's a 2.0 GPA, failing to meet a preparatory course, or getting a C after taking a course twice. So it clearly is based on your like literal GPA. And like Ricky said earlier, I feel like that's problematic. I want to ask if that was a requirement for SGA to give scholarships, like if we're restricted in any way. But if we're not, then I definitely feel like we should make it open to all students. And like discriminating just because of like their academic performance, I feel sort of hinders the point of giving it during COVID-19 as a whole.
I would even say, sorry to interrupt. I would even say, you said like we're gonna give out a set 500 and 1,000. Maybe even like move those ranges. Maybe give out, because I know 200 could go a long way to just getting food, or so maybe like like set by set. Maybe just kind of like not just stick on the 500 and 1,000.
That way we can even reach out to like more students who are in need of help.
Mhm.
And with
I
them
would also
applying for FAFSA be like another restriction? Because I know for financial aid, like you have to have a FAFSA on file in order to receive the aid. Is that like a restriction here as well?
No, FAFSA is not required because we do have students who don't submit FAFSA for various reasons.
Perfect. Okay.
One thing I also do want to say is whenever we see people that are on academic probation or are not academically in good standing, there are also a lot of stressors that are going on at home, and most of the times they are caused over monetary issues. So by giving them like everyone said like 200 can go a long way. For example, now that we're all online, I know like my Wi-Fi, since 5 people are on it every single day, it's slowing down. So maybe that 200 can go into paying a bill, so they can go to their online courses and can work and try to get over that semester.
So I think
in the long run would benefit us. That
we're cutting off. I didn't know.
Where SGA is, since we stand up on their feet and empowering them in a way to for their future and for them to be in a stable environment during this pandemic and this really stressful time. So and I also do agree with Yvette about maybe like looking at the numbers again and seeing how much money each student is getting and how often. I don't know if they can get it more than once. Also, if that's a
So I think it's also important, I agree with all of your points, but I think it's also important to note that we're not the only option for students to get money. Like we're not the only pool of money that's available for students to apply to. The care team themselves have a pool of money. The Office of Financial Aid also have a pool of money. And the reason that we put the 500 to 1,000 is because we're looking here at like, not necessarily like the quantity that we're giving or whatever it might be, but just how like, I guess we want to help rather than help more or be able to spread more, just be able to provide like a greater amount of money. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, and also, like I'm sorry if I.
They're still within financial aid. If someone needs Wi-Fi, they can still say like, "Hey, I'm trying to get Wi-Fi and I can't pay this bill. Can I please get money?" And they still qualify for care team money or financial aid money or whatever it is.
Right, and like I'm sorry, like if I was overly prescriptivist or like I understand that this is the e-board's money and that is completely up to your discretion, right? Like however amount that you should choose to give it out, or however like I don't know like constitutionally how that applies, but I just want to give my feedback about like how I think we should address this to the student body as a whole. I know that like, you know, like on coronavirus.rutgers.edu, they have like a bunch of technology resources, like you mentioned already, Sabrina. And I just want to bring up like, I know that we were talking about formalizing the contribution from senators to like the pantry run or whatever as part of one of the resolutions that was passed last semester. So maybe in addition to that constitutional amendment, maybe we can create a temporary resolution for like all the senators talking about how we might contribute like to a fund to give to the care team or the pantry run as well.
And then if we want to talk about commencement real quick, I do have to go because I'm at work. But so commencement, we just were discussing basically like a lot of students, like we kind of talked about a little bit earlier as well, are very upset and rightfully so about the fact that they can't walk during a ceremony to end their 4-year or 3-year, however many years, 5-year career at in college. So we're trying to look at ways, and I was also gonna reach out to Dean Williams as well about starting some sort of like commencement committee with both students and administration to see how we can kind of solve this, if we can possibly move to a different, and like I said, I'm also on the commencement committee that's with other presidents from other universities to see what they're kind of doing about the whole issue. A lot of people are very just lost and don't know what to do. There's some universities, I know NJIT right across the street said that they're going to do some sort of virtual commencement, but even students from, like the president from NJIT doesn't think that's a good solution and doesn't want that to happen either. I personally wouldn't want to have a virtual commencement. So, I mean, obviously these are like extenuating circumstances. It's very difficult to figure out like what we can or can't do, but I think it's really important to work with administration and see like, this is what students want. How can we try to give them that in the best way possible?
Okay, so quick question on the commencement. Yeah, so a student asked me, and he asked me this question, which I really thought was a good question. he said that will he be able to still access his honor cards or whatever during like I don't know during like a commencement day that we put together for the students. Now I didn't have an answer to give him because I didn't know what to say, but I also understood that having that honor card is part of you recognizing your achievements and accomplishments throughout your 2 years of college in Rutgers. So do we have like an answer based on that? Like we still able to get their honor cords? And what about their ropes? I know students already pay for their ropes and stuff like that. And some students were looking forward to order it at the bookstore once it arrived. So it's like that one also comes into play. Like, will students still be able to have access to their robes? Will they still be able to have access to their regular? There you go, and work with all that.
They sent an email, but I think the email only went to people who already ordered it, which is somewhat problematic, I guess. But basically, anybody who ordered it and wants to return it can. Anybody who ordered it to the store and wants a refund has to like wait a certain amount. Anybody who wants to order it, they sent out a link that you could still order it off the Barnes & Noble website. So are you talking about the gown itself or like the honor?
Like both. So first I was talking about the gown because I know like other students were saying that they still wanted the robe but they didn't order it at that time. So now it's good to know that okay, good. And also talking about the honor cords.
In the chat, I don't know if you saw the chat. I think someone linked like the actual email that was sent out. I think was it? Yeah,
I just want to make a point. So it's not confirmed that commencement is canceled because in the email that President Barchi sent out, he said that it's going to be determined whether or not they can move forward with commencement. So that's
no, they canceled it.
So
yeah, it was canceled
it now. Like it's confirmed that it's canceled. Like them giving refunds for the cap and gown is kind of like obvious that they're canceled.
So my question is, will they be having it in the summer then? Is that what they're thinking?
No,
they definitely should.
They can't have it in the summer.
They have like a graduation party, like in August, like a big party on the beach.
What?
Like, I had this
not a bad idea.
Another question, like a student.
Like, was there an official email sent that it's canceled?
Yeah.
March 17th, 2020, for an update on courses, events, and commencements. All events scheduled at the university through May are suspended. This includes Rutgers Day and commencements.
I know, but the paragraph
afterwards.
The paragraph after that, it said it will be determined.
Yeah, so they're like they didn't cancel it yet.
They didn't have to cancel it yet. Why would then they would have been straightforward and say it's canceled?
Wait, guys.
Like NJIT giving refunds. I feel like that means that they're canceling it, but they did say that it might be rescheduled in the email.
I mean, they have to
cancel for the May 20th.
That's like pretty straightforward, regardless if it's going to be canceled or not.
Can we have Dean Williams comment about it? Because
I'm sorry. What was the question? Is it going to be canceled or is it going to be postponed?
Or is it looking to be postponed? Is there some type of like route that they're taking to see if they could postpone it, or is it just up in the air?
Canceled, yeah.
So I know that I actually just got asked to sit on the commencement committee. So I am assuming that there's going to be some type of plan put in place. Otherwise, I don't know why they would have the committee.
Exactly.
I know for sure it won't be May. But what I want to ask them is, I'm taking note of your questions about, access to cords, stoles, regalia. Should students hold on to it? Also, I want to know what student participation in the committee looks like. So we haven't met yet. So I certainly will be asking those questions as soon as we get that meeting on the calendar.
Are we able to
maybe be like an option of having like this
on the committee?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Would we be able to have a student representative serve on the committee? Because I know, I think it was TCNJ also has a commencement committee that they just created, and they have like a student seat on it.
Yes, I mean, my job is to advocate for you all, and so I will definitely be advocating for that.
Okay,
thank you.
So, not to cut this conversation about commencement short, but I do want to go back to the point about student funds. So one point that was brought up is like Carol and I have been trying to see how we can use our Senate funds for SASN students, but we now recognize that we cannot just solely give it to SASN students. But in the same way, we are kind of prohibiting students that have lower GPAs from accessing their student funds that is essentially going to student government, but they can't touch it now. So that's kind of where my concern is with that. And I'm sorry to bring it back, but I don't know how we went from one topic to another so quickly. But if that can also be addressed. And the commencement committee that we are talking about, is that the same one that was set during the semester, or is this going to be a different one given the circumstances?
I believe it's well, I don't know. I can't say for sure who's on the committee before. I know I was not on that committee and I've been added. So I'm assuming there's some kind of new configuration. And then going back slightly to your point around the emergency fund, I think based on the conversation you all are having, it sounds like it's going to be open to all students at this point. I think the question I have is what are the actual ranges that you all want to apply in terms of minimum, maximum, and then just knowing what the final amount is.
So I'm gonna head out. I just said it in the chat real quick, but before I do, I think we do want to stick with the 500 to 1,000 and keep it at 50,000 open to all students, regardless of academic standing.
Thank you.
And is that going to be combined with like the funds from financial aid and like the care team, or is SGA doing its separate thing?
I think SGA is doing it separate.
And we're working with financial aid and the care team to identify students who need it, identify the amount that they need. But it is $500 to $1,000. But like I said, there's other resources that, like Harrison mentioned, there's like free Wi-Fi that's being offered by certain people. There's a lot of resources that are already available that students can access, as well as care team and financial aid money that they have the option to access as well.
And what's the total amount? I'm sorry.
$50,000.
How much?
50,000.
50. Okay.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, so Dean Williams, I believe that the 50,000 is coming from eBoard. I don't know, like, if the other senators want to work together and like see if we can contribute to that pool or a separate pool, or how that would be worked out. But
Matt and I are willing to give whatever funds we have remaining.
I mean,
So-
wait, is Kainat still here? How much funds do we have left over as a Senate?
So, 1 second, let me pull it up. The only senators who used their funds were SASN, so they have like about 800 left, and media senators who still have like 1,010 left. Everyone else still has their 1050.
Okay.
All right, bet. So how? Okay, so I guess my question kind of, because I guess I want to go back to the other topic about the unused funds for student orgs and stuff.
Yeah.
So how? Okay, if that the thing you're talking about with allocations, how much would that be? How much would that come from allocations? The plan that you have.
Yeah, so I spoke to Dean Williams, and she said that we can't use allocations funds because technically allocations funds are prior year student fees, and we can only use current year student fees. So that only means using SGA executive and Senate funds. So that's all we have with us right now.
Wait, so then what were you talking about then earlier about how like we won't have money for allocations? What was that?
I was talking about if I was able to use that, because I didn't know yet if we could use that or not. But I was saying if the allocations board decided to give a majority of our budget to an emergency fund, we wouldn't have anything left for next year's chief of finance. And then obviously the only way allocations board gets money is rollover from student organizations.
Yeah.
Technically, if we can't use our money, we have right now, I think it's like 90 something thousand in the allocations board account. So they should be good, honestly.
So using unused funds is okay, like, or at least on the table in regards to giving money to the care team or any other resource that
I don't think we could use student org money. Dean Williams can clarify, but I don't know if we can use their leftover money for.
Right. So there are two kind of levels. Number one, discretionary funds. So SGA, Executive Board, and Senate are discretionary funds, meaning when you all voted to allocate a certain amount to the Senate and to the Executive Board, it's up to you how you want to utilize those funds. Any funds that were allocated to student organization are not discretionary. That includes allocation board funds, meaning because students paid into that fee, it is required that it remains open and accessible to them. So you all can donate your funds if you choose to do so, but you cannot donate student organizations funds.
Now, are student orgs able to contribute in some way to the care team if that was an option, since it is on their accounts currently?
Yeah, there's nothing preventing student organizations from doing that. However, I think that what's really important to note is that I think what you all have to make a decision is, how are you treating their current funds? Are you rolling them back? Because once they are rolled back into allocations, they can't come out. So
Yeah.
are you rolling back, or are they going to remain in their account?
So yeah, that's I just wanted to get a clarification on that. So so if they were to like not roll back to allocations but to their accounts, it would just be, I guess, the amount that they have remaining plus whatever tier they get next semester. Is that right? Or
I mean, if they're going to donate it, why can't we have them like roll it back to their accounts, and then they can choose what they're going to do with it, either donate it to the care team or like keep it for themselves? Can we do that?
I'm only bringing up this question because earlier it was brought up that they wanted to, like, some suggestion was like to evenly distribute the remaining funds to each org, but seeing these limitations, it's obviously something we can't do on our own.
Yeah.
But we can't do it at all. So so like we're just trying to see like what options we got.
No.
Oh no, Nikita, we don't hear you.
Muted.
No. Yeah. No, we can't hear you.
Also, as far
can't
as the
hear you.
Senate funds, Ricky, maybe you and I can organize with the Senate and see how much everyone else is willing to donate to the fund, and we can get back to the e-board and to Dean Williams and Dean Pandit and see how, like, a finalized amount, and maybe kind of, if you want to just say in the Slack how much each senator pair has, so we have a certain amount so we can work with and see how much we can actually donate from the Senate.
Yeah, I'll put it in.
Thanks, Kaina.
No problem. If you need my help with any of that, just let me know.
Yeah, we definitely are going to need your help, just to make sure that, because you're right, we want to make sure that the SGA is financially stable next semester, but at the same time, using the funds that we have to, help out students. But I guess,
can't remember, do SGA funds clear out in the, I think SGA funds clear out anyway, so we could really use potentially all of our money, and then we get new money in August, I think.
oh, it just clears out, like it doesn't roll over to allocations as well?
No, I think SGA funds, I don't know where they go, but I know the account clears out.
SGA funds roll over for next year. So you all keep your funds. Nothing rolls back from SGA. So if you all, maximize all the funds for this year, then you zero out your budget for next year, and then it just starts from scratch. But every year, SGA has rolled over some funds, because don't forget that a lot of the programming initiatives and things that you all have planned for the spring, you're going to want to do again in the fall. And keeping in mind that in the fall semester, you're only going to have the fall fees. And so if you can't add on additional programs, you'll just be restricted to whatever you have available.
Okay.
So something for you all to consider.
Definitely. All right. And the $50K, that's already been considered in the budget, right? Kind of.
Yeah.
So how much will we have? Oh, my bad.
Error on RadarLink, so I'm waiting for Melissa to get back to me. But if we use that 50,000, we have about 45,000 left in the account.
And how is that divided? That 45, like is it including Senate? Or...
Yeah, that's including Senate funds. So from that 45,000, 10,200 is for the Senate funds.
And the rest is e-board?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I think, I don't know.
I mean, if we use that 50,000 and let's just say every senator decides to give all their money and we use that 10,000 too, we're still left with like 35,000 in the account at the end of the semester to roll over to next year. So
is that for allocations or for what?
No, it stays in the SGA account.
Do you remember how much was rolled over to you when you first started in the fall? Like what's a healthy amount, I guess, for the SGA to keep, I guess.
Hold on, I'm gonna have to scroll to a Vader link. Okay, so after we did all the tiering in September, we had 32,000 in our account.
Okay. So I guess having 30 between 30, like 25 or 30 would be sufficient to keep the government going. Okay.
So in that case, like, why don't we try and figure out some kind of temporary resolution or amendment or whatever that needs to be done, and then maybe we can bring it back to the Senate next time and get some more feedback and hopefully pass it.
Yeah, so that was going to be my next point. So we did talk about a few things that should be written and passed, hopefully. So one of them was temporary resolution for us to continue our meetings virtually. And then on the second one, I don't know if y'all want to go ahead with this, but the contingency amendment thing that we were talking about as a plan of what is suggested to be put in the Constitution, but not limited to, of course, and that would be an amendment. And then also the third one would be a temporary resolution for us to be able to use the Senate funds. And also Harrison brought up a good point about the resolution that we passed earlier about the housing and food insecurities. And we discussed at that point that we wanted to make an amendment that all senators have to use 50% of their funds to be put back into the pantry. And that is if there's any remaining funds, which in this case, if the Senate decides to move with donating all their funds to the relief that with the care team, I would assume that none of that money would go to the pantry run. But that is also something that we should keep in mind. I don't know if we want to keep moving forward and writing that amendment, or maybe we should postpone it. And Harrison, I would love your feedback, since like that is kind of your project and what you want to do, and we can get the other senators, and also Dean Williams and Dean Pandit can also.
I think personally, like I'm still getting in contact with like Ellen, but at least in my meetings from the environmental task force, attendance at the pantry has increased. And I know the care team collaborates with the pantry, but I just don't want them to be left out of the question of like, you know, if we're donating money to them or like creating a scholarship for students, I don't want that to be left out of the conversation. And I would hope to, you know, maybe the temporary resolution supersedes the amendment. I'm not exactly sure how that would work legislatively, but I would hope to pass both of these.
Wait, Ricky, I just want to clarify something.
Yeah, go ahead.
So that amount that I gave you, that 30,000, which was after we did all the tiering in September. If we look at the amount before we got that 140,000 student fees, we had 719 in our account in August of 2019. So I think that's what was left over from prior year.
Oh, so, oh wow, so that, oh, so does that mean we're able to, like, I'm not saying as an option, like to empty our funds, I guess.
But I mean, we could technically, but it all depends on how much money comes in. From what I've seen and what was in Ali's time, we've always had 140,000 in preliminary fees come in September, but that may not be the case always. So
okay, no,
it could, like, if that
good to
amount,
know.
yeah, if that amount drops, then the amount we have available to us also drops. So like Dean Williams said, we should just keep that in mind for the next chief of finance, that like there's a certain amount that we could leave behind for them.
Okay. Which is also another thing. Wait, I don't know if this was mentioned earlier, and I apologize if it was, but that scholarship that the chief of finance always does it, or always does, is that still in effect, or is that something that we're gonna temporarily not have
So I was
because of the situation?
I was gonna ask Dylan to put me on our next agenda when we were still having physical meetings to discuss the scholarship committee and who wanted to be on it, but since campus was closed, I don't know. I don't know what we want to do with that.
And just also to add on that, like if we do plan to do it, I want to go back to the resolution that we passed to help, especially undocumented immigrants and students that we have on campus, because we did have a demand on that to have, I don't remember the number of scholarships, but dedicated to solely undocumented students.
It was 5.
So yeah, that's also, yeah, and in the language, I believe it said the annually we would reward that. I don't know if that would also have to be postponed, but just to keep that in mind as well when we're thinking about the budget.
Yeah. I think once we finalize an amount for, I know we said 50,000 for the emergency fund, but once we like finalize an actual amount, and then decide what the Senate wants to do with their funds, which I'll put in the Slack, I think we can calculate how much exactly we have left over and then figure out if that's something that we can afford to do. But I think we should be able to do it.
I would also encourage you all. I mean, here's the thing. You all could set up the fund. We can actually see how much students use the fund. I'm happy to share a report, on where the fund is in terms of how many students have used it, for what purposes. I can't disclose students' identities for their own privacy, but I can disclose kind of the amounts and what the funds have been used for. So you all can then vote to replenish the funds with whatever you have remaining, or it could be that all the needs are met with the funds that you've used in combination with care funds and financial aid funds, which are 2 additional funds that students can also access. So I just kind of want you all to also think broadly about kind of process, because we do have some time.
Okay, that's perfect, actually. Yeah, we would definitely benefit from that info. Thanks.
All right, well, can we like talk about all this at the next meeting? So like we have everyone available?
Yeah, I think
we have to like vote, like
motion to adjourn.
Yeah, vote to adjourn.
Well, actually, before
Second.
Nikita, did you want to say? Panda, did you want to say something?
Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry. I've been in and out. So I facilitated an elections info session earlier today, and I had around 12 to 15 student orgs participate. It was for student orgs who are going to be coordinating elections as well as running. So a lot of, I also was trying to focus on the topic, but I couldn't. There were a lot of other questions related to Express Night and how SOS is going to work this semester. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I saw your agenda, and I believe that was an item that was already discussed earlier. But the main question was basically how is tiering going to work moving forward? And the other question was, can student organizations still continue to use funds from this semester? So as in, can they get giveaways, or can they get supplies for their organization? One of the orgs asked if they can get a banner for their org and things like that. So with that, I asked, I don't have any issues with that, but again, how is the delivery working out? Because normally when student orgs get giveaways, they would be shipped to the student life office. The other thing is, our companies like Forum Print even operational right now. So they're going to get me more information on that, but I just wanted to put that on your radar. The main question is, is there any communication that is going to be sent out from SGA in regards to FOIS and tiering moving forward? So that is something that was primarily discussed in my conversation with them.
One thing that we also talked about, Nikita, is the Slack link that we have been talking about. Like we've talked about before. I think it's a good time for us to send it now. And any questions that people have, they can, especially about SOIS, they can reach out to the committee members themselves, and that can be its own channel on Slack. I don't know how or who would send it. I don't know if it's going to be through OSLL or the SGA email, but I do think that should be sent out like soon, so we can start addressing those concerns. And also about elections, are it's still the same timeline, right, for student organizations that they're going to have to go through?
Yeah, I did say that we were going to be a little flexible. The timeline I suggested was the week of April 6th, with results being announced on the 13th. But again, I'm working with student groups and the election coordinators to set up the ballots. I don't know if, like I think student orgs are used to doing recruitment for certain vacant positions. So we said we would be flexible with that, just with the situation around us. So, I mean, preferred timeline is is the April 6th week with the Emerging Leaders Institute, the training that happening on the 24th.
Okay.
An email was sent out yesterday with those updates. I'm hoping you all also received that email.
Yeah, we got the email. And how is it gonna be, you said, for students who like want to use the remaining funds for like merchandise, would they be able to do that for student orgs?
So it depends if companies are actually taking in orders. Student Life Accounting is working, so purchase requests can be approved. We could do those things. POs can be created. It just depends on if funding is going to be, if these companies are actually working on production.
Okay. And are there companies they have to purchase?
I don't know. See, the question also was that are funds from this semester, unused funds, being rolled back? Are they going to have a portion of those funds? Because spring semester is typically when we see organizations order their supplies and their merchandise. So again, is it going to be flexible? Like, are we going to allow them to place some orders during, like, the summer months? Because they, I guess they are using it to recruit in the fall showcase. So, if they are running out of supplies and giveaways and merchandise, like, what do we want to do about it? But I wanted to, kind of consult with SGA, and in terms of like whatever you all decide in terms of funding for this semester, like I think that will determine a lot for student organizations moving forward.
Now, I have a question. I think I brought this up earlier about the chances of like student fees being having a prorate refund. If that happens, does that affect like the balance that clubs have currently, like the amount of funding they have currently, or something else? I don't know.
You're talking about student fee refunds?
Yeah, if there was a chance that for some, like let's say Rutgers decides to give a prorated refund based on student fees or school fees, or I don't know, some type of fee that affects the bottom line of like organization
those funds are already allocated for this semester, so I don't know. I don't think that would affect their current allocations, because see, some organizations have already had some of their events. They may have used more funds than the others. April tends to be a busy month. Everybody sort of waits till April to have their big events. So again, some organizations may not have used it, but I don't think it would have an impact.
Okay.
What was the decision that was made? Again, I don't want to keep you all here because this meeting ended one, but what was the decision that was made regarding SOIS?
So nothing has been necessarily made yet, because we were like kind of like talking about like what exactly to do and what we are capable to do and stuff. So since we can't touch like the fees that have already been allocated to student orgs, the conversation was, if those funds would be rolled over back to allocations, or would they be given back to student orgs next semester and then get the allocated funds based on their tier from the last time that we had express night. So I think that's definitely something
We
that
had
we've
talked
already
about doing
agreed.
an average for fall and spring allocations, the tiering, and then based on that we would tier. I thought you all were supposed to vote on that today, so just wondering. Sorry.
No, I think that's something that I guess the SOIS committee and anyone else that's interested in this to definitely talk more in depth, because it's an important topic and it's not something that we can't just make just quickly and then get it over with. It's something that we have to take day by day.
I mean, either ways, I just feel like we need to get student orgs an update sooner rather than later, or at least let them know, inform them that this is what's happening currently. This is what SGA is working on. And, you know, once a decision is made, we will kind of update you and then also provide them that email that Sarah was suggesting. If they have additional questions, they can reach out through that email. Just some email, you know, to student groups. Even if you forward it to me, I'd be happy to send it through the student life email if you want to compose something. I just feel like we need to kind of give an update. I think everybody knows that events are canceled. You know, everybody just now the question is how is that going to have an impact on SOIS? So, you know, some information that we can send out, even if it means that, oh, we are working and we'll give you an update soon, will be helpful.
We can definitely compile something because I think it was brought up earlier by Sarah. And I think we should definitely do that and also include like the Slack invite link so that moving forward, you wouldn't get all your updates through email. It would be coming through Slack. And so I think getting everyone situated in Slack while still using the emails until we fully transition, I think that's probably the best way we're going to go moving forward to communicate what the SGA will do in terms of you know, club funds and stuff like that for next semester.
Thank you so much. And I'm sorry, this is something that should have been discussed earlier, but I was in the elections and session meeting, so I couldn't join earlier. But thank you all. It's definitely nice to see you all and your faces. And you guys are doing some amazing work. I heard about the 50,000 scholarship. That's awesome. Great news. Keep up the great work remotely.
Thanks,
Nikita.
All right, guys. Vote to adjourn.
I guess so. Any last words?
Take care. Stay safe.
Yeah.
All right.
Stay home.
All right.
See you guys. Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Or good morning, or I don't know.
Good afternoon.
Take care. All right. Bye, y'all. Wait,
I
hold up.
knew someone was going to stay on.
Wait, there's a live stream still going on, so yeah.
Goodbye, y'all. No, I'm actually going to leave. No? Okay. This is how we look in front of the entire YouTube.
On a side note, though, Robert's Rules of Orders definitely have a precedent system already set up for how people can speak. We should probably definitely go to that if we're going to be doing this. This was crazy.
Wait, hold on. I'm getting a call. Hold on. Give me 1 second.